Pounder to Russ. Got away. How did he do it? Bo Nix to the goal line. What a touchdown. Oh, what a catch.
Wow. Dun-dun-dun.
It's like watching a pit stop.
Oh, boy, we got the sprinklers going off here on the field.
Oh, my goodness.
Undefeated with the shadow backs. Hardest drip, I got it back.
It's 2020.
I don't know if I enjoy this shit in contact, but I'm going to do it if I need to.
That's just how it go when you play with the bosses. Oh, no, we ain't never taking no losses. What more can I say? This the way. I'm a smash. All I do is win every day.
Best coach in the nation right here. It's a special group doing special things together.
He said it's the Mormons versus the Mullets. A little feisty.
Last chance for the Cougars. Mill the catch. Russell down on the 2. Postal wins it.
You know, we heard all week that we're going to get killed. We're not big enough. We're not ready. Coach of football's here. We're here to stay. And they know it.
If you thought all the drama was saved for Saturdays, you don't know how this works. The College Football Committee has spoken, and that means we get to react. It's Rankings Reaction presented by Cheez-It. Christine Williamson, Mike Golic Jr., and I, am Christmas spirit. Jason Fitz coming at you. I am full Christmas tree. That's the best part about the delay in the college football season. Mike, you get to sit next to a Christmas tree.
I got to be honest, before this show, we're getting ready, and Moody, our producer, gets in me and Christine's ear, and it's like off the top, you guys got to give Jason some grief about his suit, thinking that Jason wasn't going to draw enough attention to himself.
Yeah, okay, well, first of all, this is like tattoos, Mike. You don't get it not to talk about it, right? Like, at some point, I have this ensemble because I'm ready to bring the Christmas cheer to everybody. Like, this is just me bringing the light, the spirit of Christmas to you.
Christine, as the best dressed person in here consistently, how are we grading this?
So I was going to say it's almost like a really good outfit minus the sweater underneath. Like if you did like a white shirt, it would be actually like a fit. But right now it's like a Fitz.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Fitz.
I contemplated going with the plain red, but the red that I had didn't match this red. I didn't want to go that. Almost went black, but the black just felt like it was too matte. I don't have a white shirt, and this, by the way, is my Nickelodeon Christmas shirt, which I wore specifically because I knew it would bring joy to Mike's heart. So this is me tugging to the heartstrings of my co-host. Like, I'm making the whole room better with this thing.
You clearly don't know me all that well. Consider yourself uninvited from the Christmas party.
Oh, you eat the Cheez-Its. I'll tell everybody about the rankings. The committee has spoken. The top 6 you'll see right here. Not a lot of surprise there. Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State. That's your top 4. We'll get to some of the Ohio State drama in a little bit. Texas A&M, Florida. Still 1 through 6 the way we're used to 1 through 6. The drama comes in 7 through 10 where we see a surprise, guys. I don't know who Iowa State has naked pictures of, but it's got to be somebody. They keep just going up. Losses don't matter to this committee. Iowa State, 2 losses. They move up 2 spots after a convincing win over West Virginia, and Cincinnati falls to 8. I am angry.
Okay, here's the thing that nobody has talked about. I mean, we haven't talked about this yet, that I think is very interesting. Out of nowhere, Texas is now in the top 25. So now there's 4 Big 12 teams in the top 25. Last week, Texas wasn't in there. Yeah, so teams just like played like regular. I mean, obviously, Iowa State beat West Virginia. Congratulations. Texas beat, I think, Kansas State. Congratulations. And then we now have whatever's going on.
I will say, both of them beat the tar out of those respective teams in this situation. So if you're saying resounding win, people watch that Iowa State team that got a close win against Texas. Remember, Texas lost with a chance to tie it at the field goal in that game. Iowa State erased all doubt in this game against West Virginia. This was a blowout and a bludgeoning from the moment they said go on this spot. And so for a team, yes, Jason, 2 losses, but what have we seen so far this season? Being a team that's outplaying that the committee can evaluate is huge. They didn't get to do that with Cincinnati. They didn't get to do that with Georgia. And so getting to evaluate them, and we've seen a blowout loss is not stopping Texas A&M from being highly considered. And maybe this is a year, because of how chaotic it is, where 2 losses doesn't necessarily count you out if you're missing Charlie Kohler, one of your best players in the first game, and lose to a ranked Louisiana team.
Yeah, but realistically, Mike, what we've seen is Iowa State go up 4 spots last week. After that barely eked out win over Texas that, fine, Texas is back. in the top 25. But now we've seen a total of 6 spots moved in the last 2 weeks. I mean, I think that there's a statement being made from this committee that we need to stop thinking about the loss column, because the loss column obviously doesn't matter at this point.
I mean, I think it's 2020. We can't, like you said, Iowa State lost to Louisiana. They're now at 19. So I feel like that gives them kind of a little bit of leverage and like a reason for moving them up a little bit more. But it's 2020. People are that's why I asked Gary Barta last week, is there a team that can go into the CFP with 2 losses? And he was like, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen.
And I think that's really interesting relative to the team sitting at number 10 right now in Miami, who has got 1 loss this season to the number 3 team in the country in Clemson. And then since then, has gone out. But then you ask the question, because with Iowa State, you can point to quality wins. With some of these other teams, you can point to quality wins. Who would be Miami's quality win?
Okay, that makes sense. Because I didn't even think about that. Because they are in the ACC, and I feel like the Big 12 at the beginning of the season, we were like, don't look at the Big 12. It's absolutely horrendous. And so now you have a team like Miami who has been playing pretty well. They used to be irrelevant, and they have 1 loss, and they're behind an Iowa State team. It's just odd.
But Cincinnati has no losses. That's all I'm saying.
They didn't play this last weekend, and we know the uphill battle they're fighting. Jason, I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying what we've seen now is at least consistent through the first 3 weeks of this ranking is if you are idle, you are at risk, whether that is your fault or anyone else's.
Which, over the course of the next hour, will become a big part of the conversation that we will have about one Ohio State University. We'll get to that in a second, but consistency has been absolutely something we can say about one person's favorite team in this room. It might be Mike Golic Jr.'s Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So let's get a little star power and a little bit of conversation here with Ian Book joining us. Ian, thanks for the time, man. We appreciate it. So I guess when you look at the playoff rankings, we yell about everything. From your standpoint, how much attention do you guys even pay to all of this?
A little bit. I mean, we hear about it, and but Coach Kelly just says, 1 week at a time, and let the rankings just kind of figure themselves out. And it's been an unbelievable season, and here we are, ready to go and playing our first ACC championship game. So we're just excited for another rematch against Clemson.
Ian, I am curious because you mentioned, and you say that, and I've said it tongue-in-cheek all year, Notre Dame gets to do its 1 year away in the conference, and you guys have done so well in this year, but it feels like it's been a bit of a different approach from Brian Kelly, your head coach. How have you seen him approach this season, this year, in such uncertain times, maybe in a way that's different than in years past when you've worked under him?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird year with COVID, obviously, and starting with COVID, not even knowing if we were going to play, and then joining a conference. Obviously, all of that is just so different. And he's just had a great message the whole time. And this team has done an unbelievable job of not shying away from anything. And he just comes in every week and says, we're in a conference, and it's 1 week at a time. And we feel fortunate that the ACC allowed us to join. And here we are, take the season 1 week at a time. And he's never played for a title, and we haven't either. And here we are. And our ultimate goal is the national championship. But this is just it's the ACC titles first, and then we'll get to the national championship.
Yeah, you guys are certainly taking the ACC by storm, just knocking my University of Miami Hurricanes out of the conversation. I do want to ask you, though, because we have a Heisman show that we do on Fridays, and a lot of the conversation has been about other quarterbacks. But when you look at your resume, you're the winningest quarterback at Notre Dame. Do you feel like you should be in that conversation more?
Yeah, honestly, I'm just focused on our team and our season. And the Heisman's a bunch of great talk, and I love it. But I mean, I would love to be. I'd love to be a part of it. I think I can compete. And but again, I'm just focused on the season. I kind of let that take care of itself. But my goal is to win a national championship with this team and keep leading the offense and just let that kind of take care of itself.
All right, so Ian, obviously one of the things that comes up every time we talk about Notre Dame, I feel like, is the past of Notre Dame in the playoffs, or for some in this room, the championship. It seems to be something that we always have to answer, and I don't really understand it because it affects every team differently. So how frustrating is it for you guys to be having to answer questions about Notre Dame's past whenever there's a playoff conversation?
Yeah, it's tough, and it's kind of just, being a part of Notre Dame. That's what it's like. It's a lot of people like you, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't think you belong, and that's just the way it goes. And again, just taking the season, 1 week at a time, and especially at Notre Dame, going undefeated can always help you and get you into the playoffs. And another win for an ACC title should really help us get into the playoffs. And but it's part of Notre Dame. People want to talk about the past and what happened in 2018 when we made it and stuff like that. And it's a different team, different year, a whole bunch of different circumstances. So we just try not to let that bother us.
You know what, Ian, as someone who has to go to work in a building every day full of Northwestern and Syracuse grads, I understand exactly what you're talking about here. So it is a difficult lot in life, but it's one that you weathered, and you've won at such a high level. And you mentioned 2018. You guys do go undefeated in the regular season, find your way to the playoffs in that year. So I'm curious, what have you and some of the veteran leaders on this team that were a part of that squad, what have you guys learned and brought to this season that you think has helped prepare you guys for what's going on right now?
Yeah. I think a lot of leadership things. I look back at that game, and I was young. A lot of us were young players, and it was a big stage. And now we're the old guys on the team. A lot of us are fifth years now, and we're just leading the team in a different way. And it just feels special that we get that opportunity again.
You should be calling yourself seasoned or wise, not old.
That's the way we use it to make ourselves feel better right now as we get north of 30.
So there was a video that went viral this past weekend of your Leprechaun kicking the ball. He actually is pretty skilled at being a kicker. That's amazing. Did you see this, and what did you think about it?
Yeah, I just saw that actually recently, and he's talented. We should suit him up and get him on the team. So I'm impressed. He did a good job, and it's a pretty cool kick. It's a pretty athletic Leprechaun, so it's good that he's representing the Irish.
But let's be real. Like last year, I was traveling with Game Day, and the Leprechaun at the time was also super athletic. What's the criteria here for being the Leprechaun? They're athletes.
Acquired.
It's a pretty competitive thing is what I've heard, so it's a big deal.
There's a lot that goes into it, guys. The Leprechaun is actually on scholarship, I believe, as well, and so you got to go out there. Listen, it's like we always say, they're on scholarship too, so these kind of feats of athleticism are what we can expect here. I am curious for you, though, Ian. Feats of athleticism during this season have been many for you, evading pass rushers, but it all culminated in the North Carolina game. The flip heard around the world in that one. How much have you heard about that one play positive from the public, and what did Brian Kelly say to you as soon as you got over to the sideline after that series?
Yeah, it was positive from the public, but Coach Reese was pretty hard on me for it. He didn't want, he doesn't want that to become a normal thing, which I totally understand. And it kind of just happened. I definitely wasn't thinking about it, and we just wanted to move the chains. And I felt the chemistry with Mike Mayer and knew I could make that flip, but don't want to make that a regular thing. Coach Kelly didn't say much about it, but Coach Reese said, let's not do that again. It was too risky.
By the way, how hard is it to call him Coach Reese? You can tell him from me to lay off on that one. He's always going to be Tommy to me on that one. But that relationship does seem pretty interesting. You and Coach Reese, as he's known here, but you and Tommy really do seem to have a bond. How important has that been to you and this team this year to have a voice like Tommy in the room as offensive coordinator?
Oh, it's been everything. He's a coach, mentor, friend, and it's been everything. He's been there, through everything for me, and he's someone that coaches me really hard, and he's also been through, everything I've been when he was, the quarterback at Notre Dame. So he's someone I can go to just for life advice as well, and he's taught me so much, and I can't thank him enough. I've learned all my X's and O's, and then if we just want to talk about something life-related or something about the Notre Dame quarterback position, he's done it, he's been through it, and he can help me get through it, and it's a special relationship that we have, and he'll be a friend for life.
Ian, we appreciate you joining us today, man. So congratulations on having a great year. Thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with us, bud.
Oh, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
I've learned a valuable lesson, Mike. I always knew I wasn't athletic enough to be your teammate. I'm not even athletic enough to be your leprechaun.
Thank you.
That's what I've learned. It's a 3-year leprechaun.
They're a gifted bunch, man. You see the energy that they bring on a sideline. Really, any college mascot, but I am partial to the Leprechaun. It's a job actually tailor-made for you, Jason.
I feel like the energy is taken care of in that regard, but I feel like the athleticism maybe a little bit more.
Last year, I think what shook me traveling with Game Day, because a lot of times I would try and set up during the Game Day broadcast, there's little breaks. So I would set up mascot battles. I'd see if they were in for it for dance battles or athletic feat battles. It is alarming how much those guys and girls can move in their costumes. But there was a night and day difference when the Notre Dame kid came in. It was stunning as you watched him just flip everywhere and do all this stuff. And you're like, my God, he's capable.
Not a game.
He's lucky because he doesn't have a suit on too. So he can do all the stuff.
You're trying to jump around in those tiny green pants?
I feel like I played volleyball. I wore tiny black pants.
That's true. Christine is a bona fide athlete. Put some respect on that, Jason.
Oh, good Lord. It's Rankings Reaction presented by Cheez-It. Let's get you the rankings so that you can react to them. Again, the top 6 were exactly what we expected. 7 through 10 is, we've got the top 6 here: Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, Texas A&M, Florida in its 6. We'll get to the rest of it, but real quick, there we go. 7 through 10, Iowa State, Cincinnati, Georgia, Miami. A lot of reaction we've already had there about Iowa State continuing to move up. 11 through 15 gives you the big move for Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina moves up 5 spots after their dramatic win over BYU. Also a big move for USC, and there's been a conversation about how many games they've played at different times throughout the season. They get their 4th win. They move up to 15. Northwestern's still sitting there at 5-1. Indiana's still sitting there at 6-1. I think that's important, guys, because remember, we have no idea what the Big Ten championship game is going to look like at this point. Now that we know that Michigan is not playing Ohio State, there's a chance that Indiana will be playing in that Big Ten championship game. And that has meaning to a team that is 6-1 right now. I mean, there's a lot on the line for Indiana.
Oh, Indiana, who got a really emotional win this weekend. Michael Penix Jr., their star quarterback, out. And so they go in and beat Wisconsin 14-6 in a game. We saw the reaction with Tom Allen after. Like, what that team has done this year, this season, has been incredible to watch.
And Tom Allen is an absolute entertainment factory because that dude is wild. He goes hard for that team.
You're talking about energy.
Like, if we're talking about energy, this guy has energy. So,
well, and Mike, you actually tweeted out, like, I can't stress enough how rare this is to have this, like, the love and respect that these guys feel for each other on this particular Indiana football team is just, it's different.
Well, and for their coach, again, you'll find plenty of people that like their coach, but you saw the outpouring after that game. Everyone trying to come over and remind Holly Rowe and the national audience how they feel about this coach that's clearly invested so much in them. And in turn, those players go out and give him every bit of what they've got every weekend. It's created a great culture and something that, as Indiana goes forward, this isn't going to be an accident. Like the 8 wins the other year, what they've put together this season, it's not accidental. This is the building blocks and the foundation of a program.
But I will take at least a quick moment to say shame on the Big Ten for they've kept this number the whole time. Yeah. If the Big Ten comes in tomorrow and changes the minimum number of required games, remember, the College Football Playoff Committee has not had a minimum number. They've told you they want to see more, but they've never given a minimum. And so now the Big Ten is put in the awkward position of trying to figure out if they're going to change the very rules that they established just to get Ohio State in, which is something they could have done from the get-go to anticipate the problem. And that's my problem with the fact that now if they go in and change it, Mike, they never anticipated, and that seems wrong.
So the athletic directors from the Big Ten are going to get together tomorrow morning. Sources are telling ESPN. I have no problem if they change the rule. None. Zero problem in this because the rule was arbitrary. It was made at a time of chaos going on right now. Big Ten leadership's failed plenty over the course of this way. Kevin Warren and company are going to have a lot to answer for, but it's never too late to do the right thing.
But that's doing the wrong thing by Indiana.
Indiana had a chance to go out on a field and beat Ohio State. They didn't. So that's why I have zero problem with this situation is ultimately Ohio State's got a head-to-head win against that team. The rest of this, like this Michigan game being canceled, has been out of their control. I'm not going to penalize a team who went out and proved it on the field against the team you want to put in the Big Ten title game.
So if Ohio State was 1-0 and that win was over Indiana, you putting them in?
No, that's a completely different circumstance.
But the whole point is that, like, if the Big Ten's going to come out and say, here's the rule at the beginning, and everybody's going to do everything they can to get it done under those rules. And then at the 11th hour, they're like, oh, man, sorry, we were really only playing this season to get Ohio State in the playoffs anyway. So we're going to move the rules to make sure we get our best team in. I mean,
the other thing, too, is nobody thinks that Indiana is going to get into the CFP, right? So, like, if this is only good for the whole entire conference, this is actually good for Indiana to get a team in the CFP, right? So I feel like overall, it makes more sense for the whole the entire conference as a whole.
It's a rare bit of reading the room and doing the logical thing, because I've heard a lot of people ask this. If shoe was on the other foot, let's say IU had beaten Ohio State in that game. Let's say they were 5-0 and undefeated, but at risk of missing the conference title, but they're ranked 4th in the CFP rankings. I have a feeling we're having a similar conversation. You can argue that, yes, because of what Ohio State represents and the body of work they put together before this, they might get a little more love, but I think everyone is looking around and saying, all right, if it's a one-game difference we're talking about, not like they played one game, but they're missing this by one game and they're already looked at this way by the committee, why wouldn't we do the logical thing? And I think that would hold even if there wasn't Buckeyes on the side of the helmet.
All right, we'll keep the debate going for the rest of the hour. I'm sure it's Rankings Reaction presented by Cheez-It. Mike Golic Jr., Christine Williamson. I'm Jason Fitz. And speaking of Cheez-It, it's time for our Week in Review Crunch Time edition brought to you by Cheez-It. And it starts, guys, with using your head.
Goodness.
I mean, sometimes you just got to be smart. And by being smart, I mean, use your head. I love this. It bounces off the ref's head. He puts his hat on, but then he slaps the receiver on the butt. Like, shouldn't have been the other way around. Like, is that a my bad butt slap right there? Because look at this again. Mike, he could have caught that.
Well,
yeah, I don't understand why he didn't put his hands up.
I understand why the ref didn't put his hands up here, but I understand exactly why he slapped his butt. The ref prevented him from catching the pass.
I know, the ref's saying, my bad, that's not good enough. Now, here you got another one. Just another doinker off the head. Not a lot he can do there.
Oh, by the way, that's a dangerous spot on the field to have to be an umpire.
Like, what is going on? First of all, his mask isn't in the proper position. But I don't understand. Okay, is your reflex not to put your hands in front of your face?
I think it's to not get hit first.
Now, speaking of bad reflexes, you're going to see bad reflexes here from a fan. I got it. I don't got it.
Understand this
That's the
at
one
all.
there's no excuse for the reflexes. Because he didn't have to worry about getting hit. He saw it coming and just fixed it.
Yeah, but in fairness, he's sitting in the crowd, which means he may have had one or
He's
two.
probably a little boozy.
He might have had a glass of water.
There's no may. You saw the crowd shots at Myrtle Beach. He was drunk.
That guy was boozy.
Next up, we've got some targeting controversy here in the Missouri game. Twitter was abuzz over this one. It was called targeting. As a result, Nick Bolton obviously was ejected from the game. It's a tough play. I will say this in fairness. We go through these things every year where all of the college football people that work at ESPN sit down and we go through like classes, right? I remember when we took the class on figuring out what is targeting, and they would ask the whole room to have to grade things, and none of us were getting it right. Targeting is incredibly difficult to figure out, but this one, it feels wrong when you read the replay.
Supposed to be lowering the crown of your helmet with a threatening position, lunging, hit forcible contact to the head or neck of a defenseless receiver, and this seems to check next to none of the boxes.
I try to give the refs the benefit of the doubt in a lot of situations. Not so much.
And the problem with that is that it gets reviewed. Targeting is reviewed. So there were a lot of opportunities to fix that. I feel bad for him, too, in that process.
That's a great point by Christine, though, is extending some grace to officials who have to see it in real time. But when you've got the replay officials who get a chance to look at it, that's inexcusable.
Yeah.
All right, next up on our Crunch Time Moments presented by Cheez-It. This one hit home. It just felt like, me and Mike, it's like, nope, you go over here, young man.
Sir, this is an Arby's.
I'm sorry, do you know what's going on? I'm picking you up.
Do you have a reservation? You will not be allowed inside this building.
He said, no white tees in the club.
I don't know.
Gosh.
That's brutal, too, because he knocked Buddy's helmet off and he didn't even flinch.
I feel like the fact that he knocked the helmet off is probably why he was like, and I'm going to sun you now.
I'll tell you exactly what we're not going to do.
I feel like every little brother felt that highlight at some point because you had that moment where you thought you were going to take down Big Brother. Now, at the top of the list for our Crunch Time Moments, this one literally caused a melee. And this is Zach Wilson. Just getting
Get him.
I mean,
this hurt me.
Pummeled. He is getting pummeled. And for anyone that didn't see, this is obviously after an interception when now he is fair game. At this point, because he threw an interception, he can be blocked. But golly, man, that's just a lot to go after the quarterback that way.
I got into it with a lot of people on Twitter because I looked at this. Jason, day one of practice as a defensive football player, you are told when an interception is thrown, go turn and find the quarterback. That is day one stuff. And I understand we're doing a lot of things to make the game safer. They were right next to that dude. It was not targeting. It was not going after his knees. Zach Wilson didn't keep his head on a swivel, and he got sunned by that Coastal defense that was looking all day to make his life a living hell.
Okay, so then fine. Shoes on the other foot, our favorite game. If that was your quarterback that got taken down like that, you in a melee?
Yes, I'd be furious, just like they were in that. But Jason, I can, as an adult, say, yeah, I would have not liked that as a teammate, but also understand the same mentality that leads that D lineman to do that is the same one that had me running at the pile to pick dudes off after the play in a way that people would probably frown on. The only reason people are mad is because it's a quarterback. We watch this happen on punt coverage all the time when guys get double teamed by O-linemen, big boying people at the end of plays. You only care because he's a quarterback and he's pretty.
Protect the quarterback at all costs.
Yes.
And I love protecting the quarterback. I love him, but at some point he's out there playing football.
Especially when he looks like he's 14.
I mean,
it's true.
He looks
is very
like a
young.
child.
Yeah.
No offense.
All right,
but he's very young looking.
The BYU team did right by him throwing hands for their quarterback, too. I will say that. With them all the way. Start a fight with the mullet people.
That is your Week in Review Crunch Time edition brought to you by Cheez-It. Now, Christine,
All right, let's take a look at what's happening this weekend. And guess what's not happening this weekend? Ohio State is not playing Michigan. That game was canceled today. We talked about talking about this game in the pre-production meeting, and we were like, oh yeah, this is the game that we're going to talk about because this has big implications. Ohio State will be playing, and no, they are not. So guess who wants to play Ohio State? That would be the Bearcat wants Ohio State to play Aggie football.
Of course.
Because that would be huge for the conversation. Obviously, it's not a Big Ten game, but it would be a great game for us to watch, and we can kind of figure out the whole top 7 or top 6 thing, and that would be great. So the Bearcat at Cincinnati wants this game to happen. And we now bring in our friend Heather Dinich to talk about this and plenty of other things because there's been so much drama. Heather, do you think that we could possibly see Ohio State versus Texas A&M?
Zero chance. Zero. It's not going to happen. And I say that because the Big Ten won't let it happen because they are not allowing non-conference opponents to fill canceled games this year. But what can happen, the presidents voted and approved last month, is that if there are 2 conference opponents who had games canceled and they're available, they can play each other. So if Ohio State is sitting there and has nobody to play as they are and somebody else cancels, then those 2 teams can play each other. But they're not playing A&M, as much as everyone would love to see it, including the Bearcats.
So, Heather, the other part of the conversation we've had tonight is whether or not the Big Ten will change their requirement for 6 games. Do you have any indication on what their thought process is right now with that?
I don't know what their thought process is, but they are going to meet. The athletic directors are going to meet tomorrow morning. It's a regularly scheduled meeting. And yes, they are probably, if not definitely, going to talk about changing the 6-game benchmark to 5. And the question is, and I heard you guys talking about it, can they live with it? Because everybody would know exactly why they're doing it, right? It's to get Ohio State in the college football playoff. Can they live with those optics? Some people would say they should do everything they can to get their best team in the college football playoff. So there are clearly 2 sides to the argument. I mean, I would guess that if Ohio State cannot find an opponent to play, they would change that rule. That's just kind of my instinct on it, but I have not polled every single athletic director to see which way they're leaning.
Obviously, the college football world going to be waited with bated breath on whatever that group of athletic directors decides going forward, as the Big Ten will certainly decide a lot of what happens with the playoff going forward. But Heather, I think for all of us, one of the more shocking developments of this round of rankings is the continued ascension of Iowa State. What have you heard from the committee and people around it about not only Iowa State continuing to move up the rankings, but the Big 12 now with what I believe is 4 ranked teams this week?
Well, guys, I think Iowa State is reminding everyone in college football of the benefit of playing as many games as you can, because you see the natural progression from a team from when it starts to play and how much better they can get. Iowa State is playing some of the best football in the country right now. Oklahoma's gotten markedly better as well. So the selection committee has noticed that. They certainly like what they see, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and that's why they gave them that bump. And I know that Cincinnati fans aren't happy about that, but Gary Barta talked about how it was so much more about what the Cyclones did and way less about what Cincinnati wasn't able to do.
Heather, to that standpoint, in recent years, every year of the playoffs so far, it seemed like 2 losses are an automatic out for you, and blowout losses are an automatic out. And yet we have Texas A&M sitting at 5 and now Iowa State sitting at number 7. Is it fair to say that in this pandemic year, the committee has so far softened their view on what would have been no-goes in the past?
Well, I think it's not necessarily. I think that Iowa State moving up is simply a matter of just them recognizing how much better they've gotten. But there are enough contenders sitting up there in the top 4, top 5 spots that I would be really surprised to see a 2-loss team. And that includes if Notre Dame were to beat Clemson, I think that pushes the Tigers out. I think if Alabama beats Florida, I think that pushes the Gators out of the conversation. So what it's all boiling down to this year more than any other season is the eye test. It's going to be, no matter how many games does Ohio State play, are they one of the 4 best teams? Do they look the part?
That was going to be my next question, Heather. Like, as you said, the eye test. How likely is it if Ohio State only plays these 5 regular season games, doesn't play in the Big Ten championship, and then obviously we'll still have another game on December 19th because they have that last game. How likely is it, do you think, that they would still be in the CFP?
So it's tricky to answer that question without knowing what happens in the ACC and the SEC, and also if Texas A&M wins out, because when you don't have that conference championship game as a tiebreaker, that changes the picture. It's a different conversation. If Clemson wins the ACC and Notre Dame is a one-loss team and Florida beats Alabama, and to me, that really puts the number 4 spot in jeopardy when Ohio State doesn't have that conference title, because you're looking at the potential for 2 ACC and 2 SEC teams. So it's a much different debate in that committee meeting room without that conference championship, which is why it goes back to like what I said, the eye test.
So, Heather, with all that conversation on Notre Dame, are they in at this point? I mean, all they have left is the ACC championship game against Clemson. So can we just stick a fork in that and say they've made their way to the playoff?
I don't think we can stick a fork in it and say we've made their way to the playoff, because if Alabama, let's see just what I just said. If you've got Florida, Alabama, Clemson, and what if Ohio State does play in the Big Ten championship and beats Northwestern and Notre Dame doesn't win? Then you've got the Irish in the same spot as they are as an independent, hoping that their schedule without a conference championship is enough to get them in.
We're used to that, so that doesn't stress me out all that much, I got to say, guys.
I mean, but the funny thing is, like, that's what makes you a professional, Heather. You can do these scenarios off the top of your head. It's alarming being this close to the end and still having no idea where we are with any of it. Heather, we appreciate you hanging out with us as always. Thanks for making the show smarter and better like you always do.
Thank you, guys.
I mean, to me, and the reason I asked the question at the end was because I thought, like, hey, she was in. So shows you what I know.
What do you know?
Yeah, you bet.
The fact that she can keep all that in her head, because as she's going through everything, I'm like, wait a second. Okay, Alabama loses and Florida wins. Da, da, da. All right, it is now time to rank reactions. I got it right. Is this the third time? I feel like every single week I always say it completely wrong. We start with number 3, and this is Texas A&M kicker Seth Small, who managed to still kick even though there was a shadow from the Skycam.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that impressive focus?
You know what that is? At the same time, like, I don't know. I don't want to be insensitive. It's the one thing you have to do as a kicker, right? Like, it's like someone's shadow being in my line as a golfer.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think the one thing they should do all year is work on onside kicks. Like, that should be the one thing that they always get right. So,
watermelon kicking.
I mean, we'll take it. That's good, though. That was good.
I feel like I would freak out on that, but I'm like a person that I'm like very in my head, and if anything is askew, I'm like, oh no, everything's ruined right now. So I feel like I would have screwed it up.
You and kickers do have that in common because they're a very neurotic bunch.
Yeah, they're just like very like, it needs to be like this, and if it's not, if it's off by like 1 degree, I'm done. That's how I am. So I probably would have missed it.
Christine.
All right, number 2. This happened in the Virginia Tech versus Clemson game. Randomly, apparently, the sprinklers were just scheduled to go off. So our guy, Dax Hollifield, decided to go play in the sprinklers, which is just, I mean, focus on the game, dude. Do you not know what's going on?
That had to feel so nice, though. Like,
That's
Christine,
true.
you know, this is the middle of a game. You're hot. You're sweaty. Like, that had to feel great.
But they're in Virginia. Isn't it cold?
No, it's not. No, it's not cold. It's my annual reminder that the first time I ever met Mike, I walked into the room and the first thing I heard come out of his mouth was, I just think group showers are important for team building.
I think they are. I think it's a great bonding experience for everybody. You share some laughs. It's great.
I will say this. It is very weird to be on a team your entire life and take showers together and do stuff like that and then go into a regular world and be around people that are like, what are you doing?
That's so weird, right?
So odd.
Like,
It's just a very weird thing.
You just get comfortable being naked.
Exactly.
I will,
great.
again, use this as my annual reminder that in the music business, you have them put a pipe and draping. They put up curtains the whole way. So you put like a can out of the bath, that, like outside the shower so that everybody knows you're in there. No.
I have scared so many of my friends. They've been like, what are you doing right now?
How are you supposed to do group sing-alongs and tell jokes in the shower if you've got all this stuff between you?
Well,
The best was when we used to put soap on the floor and do a slip and slide.
Okay, nobody ever did that in women's sports. Thank goodness.
We're big dumb animals, so it makes sense.
Number one, what we do in the South. We saw a great old game. I don't know why I just got that accent, between Coastal and BYU. This guy, courtesy of our friend Mariah McGee, is double fisting with a cup of coffee and a beer.
Ain't that America?
Where they do that at?
I don't know. Shout out to Ryan McGee, by the way, who did an incredible job on the sideline for that Coastal BYU game, capturing this moment of glory. Listen, that's a man who knows he's going to need both substances to get through how stressful this game was.
I mean, and also he could have had a little bit of like something in the coffee cup too, you know?
That's true. He maybe was hiding that.
Yeah.
But then he was just purely double fisting. So one of the greatest things to come out of this, Mormons versus mullets. And it had that, like, you know, Catholics versus convicts energy. But however, this guy with his mullet, his spray painted shirt, and his bat full of beer that he just decided to chug is also.
It's like one of those like frosty mugs, and I don't know why people get those. Like, what freezer can actually hold that mug? It's too big.
Listen, you guys just gonna like just disrespect Myrtle Beach Jesus like that?
Yes.
That man is out there. He is the truth, the light, and the way in Myrtle Beach.
If his Twitter handle isn't Myrtle Beach Jesus, I mean.
Isn't that Kelsey's friend or something?
I believe our friend of the ACC network, Kelsey Riggs, does a fantastic job over there, knows that man. And if so, I have never been more honored to know a person who knows that person.
Wow.
Who's doing an incredible job there representing all things good.
Looks like a great guy. Looks like a great guy. It's my kind of guy. My kind of fan. All right. We're going to get into some overreactions because we have people that are completely overreacting. In the game against Virginia Tech, Clemson coach Brent Venables went off and turned into a meme. Actually, okay, but I couldn't tell if he was mad or if he was, you know, like, yeah, boy, you know?
Oh, that's not like when my dogs are barking and like I'm on the phone and I can't tell them to be quiet. That's the face I make.
That's the face you make when you're mad at someone in public that you can't like express that anger. Yeah. Also, he looks like Lord Voldemort with a nose.
I feel like when I saw it, I felt like he was like, I see you, man. Okay, but the question is, who did it better? Is it Venables or is it the hairbrush girl? Because he turned into a meme because of this, and everybody wanted to compare him to hairbrush girl, who, you know, she had that famous. I think she was angry because the like brush wouldn't go through her hair. I never have that problem. We never have that problem. But I think she was mad, and the fact that she is also in orange and purple just happens to, you know, cap off.
It is perfect.
Thing.
Wow, that's incredible.
They have like basically the same face. I would be surprised if they weren't related.
As somebody, like, none of us in this room have kids, right? So I don't know what you do with your kid when they're doing that. Like, do you go help them or do you walk away?
How do you not laugh when a kid does something like that?
It's hilarious. I mean, you can't not laugh. I feel like that's why she's a meme.
Oh, wow.
All right, number 3. You're doing it wrong. Iowa versus Illinois. The head coach,
Kirk
Ferentz, decided, okay, now, first of all, I don't have a problem with this because I heard that you can get COVID in your eye. So technically, he's not doing anything wrong. He's just deciding to get some double protection.
Where did you hear that?
Google it.
Okay.
That sounds like something on Facebook.
COVID in your eye. No, there was a doctor that got COVID, and he said he thinks he got it through his eyes because he was wearing all of his PPE, and he still got it.
That sounds like one of those commonly used phrases of 2020. Out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to protect my eyes in this situation.
I kind of want, when they wear the mask like that, where it's like all the way down, I want them to paint something down here that makes it look like their mouth is moving, like particularly low. That's what I want.
Oh, I was like, whose mouth is down here?
Right. It would jack you up the whole broadcast. The whole time you'd be staring at like the gator mouth going like.
This again, less surprising when you consider it comes from the person who has a room full of mannequins. Now I believe in both of his homes.
Well, look, you know what? One step at a time, Mike. Like, you know, you don't just get this level of Christmas cheer.
He's
terrifying.
I did not know that.
This is pre-crime. I feel like Jason Fitz has killed before and may kill again.
So we were talking,
no comment.
Me and Gojo, about things that we did when we were athletes that we no longer do. This guy, at number 2, for gutting it out, Auburn defensive back Jamian Sherwood decided to just bomb. And I have done this before, and I heard, Gojo, you have too.
Wait, so you did this playing volleyball indoors?
Indoors, yeah.
How did that go?
I actually, because I was indoors, did throw up into my hand. But you just have to keep it going.
Now, Mike, you used to throw up before every game, right?
You know what? First off, hats hats off and respect to my queen right now for puking into her own hand indoors, because I just, puked outside. Like, yeah, before every game I ever started at Notre Dame, I threw up. Like, the tunnel at Notre Dame is a tough place. I hope they power clean that thing. But it was just a nerves thing to get out. But at least I was outside. Like, Christine, the bravery to go through with that.
Well, what happened was we were running, and I wasn't about to stop, because if you stop, you got to run again. And we were doing this thing called 17s. You have to touch the line 17 times, and I was not about to do that again. So I was like, oh, I'm going to throw up. Threw up in my hand and just kept running. Got to make the time.
Yeah, the things that musicians don't deal with. Although I have a small bladder, so sometimes I was known to walk off the side stage and pee into a bucket.
Okay, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if you were going to say just use the bathroom, because we're talking about just doing it while we perform.
No,
so
I mean, no comment.
Just admit to America, because I have peed my pants on the sideline before. I'm sweaty enough from the waist down anyway when I'm playing, so it doesn't show up. You peed your pants on stage.
Nope. But I did frequently go into the tractor trailer that was on the side stage, and just especially if there's a long guitar solo, that gives you plenty of time to pee in a bucket and then move on.
I feel like ours is less disgusting than that, because you can't control. I guess you can't control your urine or your bladder.
Hey, you've had enough Jack. You can't control anything when you're standing on stage.
The amount of times Jason Fitz, even working in this job, will just get up from set. I have to tinkle and just walk out of the room. He wants to let you know, too.
Yes, because that's just being polite to your co-hosts.
Wow, why do we end up talking about really odd bodily fluids? This was really fun. That's what we did last week. Yeah, all right, number one. Jojo, I'll ask you this. I asked Trevor Scales this this Saturday, and he didn't have an answer for me. Why exactly did this happen?
So I heard Billy Napier after the game talking about this. A game had obviously featured a ton of weather. They were worried about what might happen on a punt snap in this situation, and so they thought they'd take time off the clock, pin them back further here. You saw where they were yard line wise. But my whole thought process is, you got your quarterback in the shotgun. You're clearly comfortable with that. Have him pooch punt it or something, and at least give yourself an opportunity, because you take what was a 5-point lead that required them to score a touchdown down to a 3-point lead with plenty of time and a timeout left. I didn't get it.
Whoever in their life decides to give the other team some points.
Well, taking a safety is a viable strategy in certain situations.
Just not in that one.
Near the end of a game, I don't think that one.
So it's Rankings Reactions presented by Cheez-It. Christine Williamson, Mike Golic Jr. You're very Christmassy, Jason Fitz. Let's take a look. We've shown you everything up through 15. So let's get you the rest of the top 25 in fairness to the rest of that bracket. Iowa, just because they're in the Big 12, apparently that means you move up. They've moved up 3 slots to number 16. North Carolina, even with 3 losses, sitting there at 17. BYU goes down 5 slots, and then Louisiana does get the big rise. They go up 6 slots there. Any issues with BYU falling 5 spots after the last-second loss to Coastal?
Nah.
Honest to God, I thought it was going to be more the way the committee's dealt with this BYU squad, so I'm actually encouraged that it was only 5 spots.
And yes, you see it correctly there. Texas is back in the top 20. And then let's take a look at 21 through 25 here. Colorado. And then it's like Oklahoma State. They went up 8 spots last week, down 7 this week. That's just fine in
they didn't even drop all the way back down to 23rd. They're still up. They're still up from 1 from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
By the way, Jason, you mentioned, by the way, Colorado. By the way, Colorado's 4-0 and undefeated right now in the Pac-12, and no one seems to be talking about it. I understand what this conference has to overcome, but for that program right now, you're putting yourself in a good position to get some buzz preseason going into next year.
Yeah, absolutely. 4-0 for them. Wonder if Mel Tucker ever thinks about wishing he was still there instead of getting his butt kicked with Sparty.
Wow.
I'm just saying. All right, throwing all sorts of shade. So that gets you the top 25. Again, no big changes in the top 6. We'll get a little expertise coming up at you now as we're joined by one of our good friends, Peter Burns. By the way, if I was going to have a superhero combo, it would be with Peter Burns so that it could be PB and J. Like, see, PB and J. You're welcome, America. Burnsy, how you doing, brother?
Wow.
I'm doing great. I went back in and I asked my wife. I told her I need to work here. I got to go out here, do some college football playoff rankings. And then the first thing she comes in, she sees you guys talking about puking and Fitz tinkling. And I'm sitting there going, this is not going well. This is the reason. This is why she had to put the kids to bed tonight. It's unbelievable.
Listen, I understand it. This is Rankings Reaction After Dark. And you should understand a show where I'm just allowed to eat Cheez-Its freely the entire time will lend itself to this kind of conversation, Peter.
So, Peter, and walk me through, like, when you looked at 7 through 10, we've been reacting a lot to Iowa State moving up as far as they moved. What stood out to you in the top 10?
Yeah, I mean, just the fact of Iowa State being in that situation, then losing to Louisiana, and you got Coastal Carolina that beat Louisiana. I'm just trying to think of what kind of mental gymnastics you have to do to get Iowa State in here. And I've been a part of the College Football Playoff Committee, selection committee, when we did the mock thing before. And you realize that sometimes you don't see the forest through the trees. And that's what I saw out of an Iowa State team. I mean, it's good for them, but honestly, what I took out of the 7 through 10, and in this year, guys, I've always been 4 teams in the college football playoff. We got to go to 8. In fact, and go to 12, go to 16, go to more. And I never would have thought I would be on that part of winning more than 4 teams in the college football playoff. But this of all years, it should have been an expansion year.
Peter, it's interesting looking at it that way because in most years we look at it, we struggle to find a 4th team to go and be competitive inside of the playoffs. So do you think that's just a this year thing, or do you think going forward now we've proven that as a more viable model and all this? This should come out from 2020 and be a forever thing?
I take it in a different angle here. In seeing how hard the Coastal Carolinas, the Cincinnatis, the Charlotte footballs of the world have worked to get that hard to even have a college football season in this pandemic, and then to tell them you don't even have a chance. You don't have a chance at all. I fail to recognize how hard that is for everybody. And now we're starting to see everybody starting to opt out, right? A lot of players, even on good teams, are saying, we're 6-2. It doesn't matter. We're not going to be in a college football playoff anymore, so I'm out. I'm wondering with the one-time transfer rule, if this is going to start looking into and putting into play more of the fact that we would have more teams involved. And having 8 or having 12 or having 16 like other divisions do, it allows those kids to say, you know what, I've got something to play forward. And I don't think I would have ever understood that mentality had I not seen what teams have gone through because of COVID-19 and how hard they've worked to even have this season.
That's a good thing to think about, especially if you think about Ohio State right now in their situations. If it was expanded a little bit, then maybe we could see Ohio State still play themselves into the top 4 in the finals. But I did see you tweet a little bit earlier about the Ohio State situation. We were talking to Heather Dinich about it earlier. What is your take on all of it?
Yeah, I mean, my deal is if you're the Big Ten, you have to change the rules for them. There's no doubt. And because you're going to have to go out there and tell the committee, and Barta is part of that committee. And you're going to have to say, well, they didn't play enough games to qualify for our conference championship game. They're not even eligible, but we want them to be eligible for the college football playoff. That doesn't jive with me whatsoever. So does Indiana kind of get the raw end of this deal? Yes. But Golic, like you said earlier, they had their opportunity. I don't know if it sits wrong with me because they just haven't played that many games, or more importantly, guys, if it had its way, we wouldn't be doing the show today. We wouldn't have college football. We've had hundreds of games played, and yet the Big Ten was the conference that was calling everybody going, hey, listen, we're leaping off of this. We want you to follow our lead. And the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC decided that they weren't going to do that. And thank goodness that they did it. Now, that's not a fault for Ohio State. I'm not asking for Ohio State to pay for the sins of inept mismanagement of the situation by the Big Ten Conference. But that's why I think it sits so bad for so many outside football fans. And Heather Dinich had talked about the eye test, and I believe that. Ohio State passed the eye test. But guess what? In 2017, Ohio State passed the eye test until week 9, where they lost to Iowa by 31 points. In week 8 of 2018 season, they passed the eye test until they lost to Purdue by 29 points. So it is a lot tougher to play a 9-game schedule than it is a 5 or 6 game schedule. And we've seen that by Ohio State in the past.
So, Bernsey, if you were on the committee and you had to make the choice between Ohio State or Texas A&M or Florida, who are you putting in as 4?
For Florida, they control their own fate, right? They beat Alabama, they're in. If they lose, they're out. If I'm the committee, I've got to see what Texas A&M is able to do against Tennessee. And if Tennessee doesn't put up much of a fight and A&M beats them convincingly, there's no doubt that I would have Texas A&M over Ohio State. And I'm sorry. At this point, I need to see more than 7 games from a team to think that they're going to be one of the best teams in the country. I thought that was going to be the case in 2017 and 2018, Ohio State, and they couldn't finish out a season. And upsets happen at the end of the season. And you mean to tell me that Texas A&M at potentially, 8-1, and not only the toughest conference in college football, but the toughest division in the SEC West, that doesn't count for something? I would have a hard time being able to stomach if a 7-0 team that didn't play their full schedule got into the college football playoff, guys.
Peter, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Guys, if you're a college football fan, we don't have a better radio show than Sunday Mornings with Peter Burns. He goes through all of the college football you need on Saturdays, gets you all the reaction from the weekend, does a really spectacular job. You're too great at everything, but particularly the one to get you the plug there, Burnsy.
Hey, real quick before I let you go, I got to show you this. This is my, hold on.
Oh,
all of my Mike Tyson
Look
guys.
Look at that.
Here.
Wow.
Wow.
Look at that.
Majestic.
That is well done by you.
PB, the interior decoration skills are on point, my friend.
Hey, and next time we do this, I won't have a...
That's perfect.
Yes. The next time we do this,
The AirPods, they always mess people up.
It's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough.
All right, you know what's not tough? Talking about big boys.
Guys, we got the Theismann back this week, boy. I tell you what, Fix Six, hashtag Fix Six is taking off on Twitter right now, and you can see why. Look at this one. Texas A&M is getting ready to play Auburn this weekend, and so they put out this lovely graphic. As our friend Spencer Hall, the SEC Network, pointed out, looks like this man actually went after to attack this eagle. And so someone on the interwebs thought it kind enough to go ahead and take our buddy from Maine, remember the beautiful, large brethren, going out here and completing this majestic imagery right here. I mean, Jason, just look.
That is just a thing of beauty right there.
Oh, a triumph.
I'm shook.
The internet's undefeated.
It really is. All right, let's get some big boys doing some great things on the field. Start off with TJ Stormont, all 6'7", 325 pounds of fury. Ooh, sending a guy back here, and I want to make a public service announcement. You're not tough on defense if you hip toss a guy who has walked you 5 yards into the end zone on that play. You got beat.
One of my favorite things to watch is offensive linemen react to like camp drills and like high school lineman footage on the Twitters where it's always like some big boy getting thrown.
Speaking of some big boy doing some great things here, let's check out Wyatt Davis. Now, this is a guy who is a big-time NFL draft prospect playing right guard for the Buckeyes on this play. And you're going to see, when things go awry, who steps up for you but your best players? Tip ball. Wyatt manages to snag it in a sea of green jerseys.
Wow.
And remind people that you should put big boys on the hands team because this right here, the awareness of catching traffic right now, Mel, Todd, pay attention.
I mean, I feel like it's rude to assume that big boys don't have hands. So,
thank you.
You know, I'm with it.
I mean, it's just assuming that there's usually food in their hands. Go ahead.
And here it is, guys. The Fix Six itself. Haskell Garrett, Ohio State defensive lineman on this play. Going to be getting loose, finding himself in the zone. Can't get there. Get your hands up. Tip to himself. Touchdown and stays on his feet. There's bonus points for sticking the landing. Look, up. Dynamic athlete.
Athleticism
Oh,
right there.
godly.
That's a hashtag Thick Six.
How much did your Twitter timeline blow up with hashtag Thick Six after this?
I'm not going to lie, Jason. The greatest thing that's happened to me post-playing career has been people recognizing the brand of big love is strong enough for them to just, as soon as a big person makes a feat of athleticism, a great play, tweet it at me. So keep doing it. It means
That's
a lot.
amazing.
Wow.
By the way, guys, if we're going to talk, sexy figures, look no further than this right here. Did you guys see this? The preview? I think it's a Lifetime.
Wait, did that just happen?
Yeah, no, they just put that back up there.
Just put that up there.
That has not been them the entire
Wait a
time
second.
right now. But We've got a movie apparently.
That is
out.
Mario Lopez, right?
He looks like the Colonel.
He's playing Colonel Sanders in what is a romantic movie. I don't know if it's a romantic comedy.
It's only 15 minutes. Did you know that?
What?
The movie is 15 minutes long.
Well, apparently Sexy Sanders just doesn't have a lot of shelf life. Never mind. I got nothing.
I didn't say it, Mario.
What?
Jason said it.
What?
How dare you make this about the Colonel's sexual prowess?
I will just be in my car for the rest of the season.
But Jason, it did get me thinking as we rank way more important things around here.
Yes. Please go on quickly.
Sexy movie advertising mascots built into all of this.
Oh, gosh.
At number 6, I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't include Ronald McDonald, the classic of the conversation.
Yeah.
Wait, you can have a sexy clown?
Oh, yeah. Sexy Ronald? Haven't you seen the European ads that get way too risque with him below the belt?
Those are odd.
They're odd, but probably deserve a further look, maybe even 15 minutes worth.
Wow. They're
coming in at number 5. How can you not get the Kool-Aid Man in there?
This is not a sexy
Who doesn't want to see the Kool-Aid Man burst into the bedroom? Oh, yeah.
Andy Reid every
Oh, yeah.
Stop.
What about this one? Maybe this one's more up your guy's alley because he's traditionally handsome. The most interesting man in the world from Dos Equis.
This is a good one. I love him. He's
oh, yeah.
Oh, no. The most interesting man seems like the...
He's a very sultry, good-looking old man.
Wait, isn't this the second most interesting? Like, wasn't there a first most interesting man and he retired?
He's the first most interesting man.
Well, there's a new most interesting man?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
He had to graduate and go get ready to make this romantic movie.
Or he put on the Kool-Aid Man outfit.
Oh, God.
Like to role play a little bit. Number 3. How about Lil Sweet? Little Sweet, sliding down the banister.
Me and kids do that way too much, actually, now that I think about it. We sing that very high-pitched voice a lot.
By the way, what a photo to use for this particular conversation. Lil Sweet, the throes of passion right here. I'm not going to lie, again, as someone who once wore an entire Lil Sweet costume, it makes you feel very sexy.
You? When?
Oh, last year. It was a Halloween costume. I had the wig and everything. I got to tell you, wearing a wig, I felt beautiful.
It was a little more Big Sweet than Lil Sweet, but it still worked.
Big Sweet could be the name of the movie. There you go.
Oh, man.
What?
We'll really flirt with the line. Speaking of body positive combo, how about the Pillsbury Doughboy, man?
Yes. I miss him. Where is he?
Wait. This is supposed to be sexy food mascots.
I don't know what's going on. I feel like Gojo's just going down memory lane.
I do like the idea of them getting frisky, the Pillsbury Doughboy, and you go to like touch him sensually and just go, ooh. Come on, no one? But number 1.
Oh, God.
Oh, my gosh. They made him so different recently.
They made him dumb thick.
Clothes. Yeah. And he's like dancing in front of this woman and her.
There's so many questions here. Like, A, when you're cleaning, who wears white? Because you're going to get that dirty.
Mr.
B,
Clean.
Mr. Clean. He's already clean.
Yeah, but then he's going to have to clean his pants between every time that he goes from room to room.
Who says he's wearing pants?
Did he get that tailor-made? Because that is skin tight. Like that tight right there. Like
they painted that on.
Latex, spandex, just make
Which
it
means
nice.
he hasn't been bending over much because it's still very, very like clingy. It's not stretchy yet.
Spandex.
Yeah, makes it
Spandex stretches out over time if you're like squatting and bending and.
You guys don't remember this Super Bowl ad where then she puts him on the couch? Like, I'm pretty sure there was infidelity involved in this commercial.
What?
Does no one remember this but me?
No!
I have learned so many things about why Mike Golic Jr. is single on today's show. That is.
Oh, sorry, that Thick Mr. Clean. Well, who would you have at number 1 besides Thick Mr. Clean?
I mean, it is very okay. This is the thing that's odd because let's look at what the title of this is: Sexiest Mascot Movie. You have Pillsbury Doughboy, the Kool-Aid Man, Lil Sweet. I'm sorry, he's like 3 inches tall.
Oh, so now we're height shaming.
Like, you don't think that they could have done a sexy version of like Wendy from Wendy's or something? Like,
no, I think that my list included characters that I felt were relatable.
What is this? Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
We're just gonna peel back the wall. I need this in a poster form. Like, I need somebody to email me this photo. I'm putting that up in my wall. That is spectacular. Oh
man, Arby's involved in this one. They have the meats.
What?
That is a lot of forehead, though. Like, they didn't do you any favors
they give
there,
you a
like,
little extra meat on the forehead.
I mean, that is...
And I'm just cute.
I was going to say, honestly, why does yours look adorable? Like, what the hell?
Like, what is up with that?
Have you seen me? Like, it's like consistent.
Oh,
It's a fair point. Also, shout out to Jack in the Box. Like, I have a great time every time I go to Jack in the Box. Great late night eats.
Also, it looks like that face belongs in that. Like, that's a real photo.
Yeah, that looks like a real commercial.
It looks like it could really be there.
What, you mean it didn't look like I had a head the size of a city block?
I didn't think that was very realistic
I'm
looking.
still imagining what it would be like for sexy Arby's, because this is like sexy mascot for commercials or whatever. And like coming in for like sexy Arby's, and you're like, hello.
Wait, is there an Arby's mascot?
No,
There is now.
It was now.
Oh, okay, got it.
Listen, I'm more intrigued, like, based on Jason, by the way, look at, I mean, in all his glory, and it looks kind of crisp. I think it's an oven mitt, technically.
Yeah, it's an oven mitt, yeah.
Oh, they put your head on the oven mitt.
Yeah, which, again, size-wise matches up and all this, but I got to say, guys, Jason Fitz dressed up the way he has tonight makes me believe that him role-playing as the Hamburglar is a very real possibility.
I feel like that's why they chose that for him.
If I could get Funko to make that for me, I would, I'd buy 1,000 of them myself, just to give out to friends. I don't have that many friends.
I was like, what are we doing with 1,000?
Well, I'm just trying to incentivize Funko to actually make enough.
Funko.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Funko.
Pops.
Funko.
Yeah, Funko, people. Like, you know, okay.
Oh, you want the doll.
They're not dolls, Christine. Oh, this is, you know what? I'm bringing a different Christmas suit next week to get this mojo off. She's Christine Williamson. I'm Jason Fitz. He's Mike Golic Jr. If you're new to it, hang out with us every single Tuesday. We really appreciate you guys taking the time from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. You can find us right here. Tell your friends, family, enemies. Tell everybody to check us out. This has been Rankings Reaction presented by Cheez-It.